What do you call a person teaching? A person who teaches is called a teacher. Part of speech, a noun. A teacher names a person who performs the action of teaching. What do you call a person running? A person who runs is called a runner. Part of speech, a noun. A runner names a person who performs the action of running. What do you call a person holding debt? A person who holds debt is called a debtor. Part of speech, a noun. A debtor names a person who owes money or has a financial obligation. If you guys caught my last video, you know that I dropped some big news. We're now helping folks attempt redemption for mortgages securitized into both public and private trusts. That's a game changer for many of you looking to take control of your mortgage situation. But as I mentioned before, this process involves certain risks, and today I want to dive deeper into key pieces of the puzzle. I'll be introducing the bearer promissory note that secures your mortgage and highlighting events that may occur during the redemption process, many of which is beyond my control. Stick with me because I'm going to break this down in a way that's super easy to understand using an analogy that you all know. So, what is a bearer promissory note? Okay, guys, so I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about the promissory note that secures your mortgage. I want to introduce you to information that you may have not had or known before to help you understand your mortgage and to understand the redemption process and risks with the redemption process that could occur that is beyond my control. So I thought that it would be very beneficial for me to do a PowerPoint presentation going over the bearer promissory note, going over some terms that you have heard but you may not know the definitions of these words, and we're going to go over some scenarios that could occur during the redemption process I want to be as transparent with you guys as possible. And also, I want to let you know that I am going to be creating a course to go along with the redemption booklet. So that is the reason for the delay. I want you guys to be armed with as much information as possible. And so I thought that it would be a great idea to teach you the ins and outs of your mortgage, how it functions, how it works, define terms for you in a plain way that you would understand, teach you what negotiable instruments are and how they are to be used. And that way you would have a better understanding of your mortgage, how it works, how it functions, so that if you run into one of these hurdles during the redemption process, you would have enough information to be able to handle yourself, okay? So we're going to talk about bearer promissory notes, okay? All right. So the agenda, we're going to talk about what is a bearer promissory note, and then I'm going to talk to you about the game Hot Potato. Okay, we're going to use the children's game Hot Potato to drive the point to help you understand the concept behind bearer promissory notes, and then we're going to get in some of the risks of mortgage redemption. Okay. A bearer promissory note is a type of debt instrument payable to the person who physically holds the note without requiring endorsement. So, what some of you guys are unaware of is that if you read your promissory note, and your promissory note is usually within the mortgage deed itself, it has language such as this is a promise to pay, or I, Christina M. Wilson, promise to pay this amount of money for a value received or for a loan that I received. Okay, so that is a promissory note. It has language that has a promise to pay. Okay, within your mortgage deed, that is usually your promissory note. Okay, with mortgages, promissory notes are supposed to have a payee, sort of like a check, okay? So if you were to write a check out to me, you would put in the check that, hey, pay to the order of Christina M. Wilson. This means that I'm the only person that can cash this check, or I can endorse the check over to another person, okay? In your mortgage, there is no payee. There is no such language. It does not say, I, Jane M. Doe, promises to pay ABC Corporation X amount of dollars. It does not say that. If no payee is named, which it should be, if I borrowed money and someone says, hey, well, you have to sign this promissory note to pay me back, and in the note, it does not name them as a payee. Okay, that should have been red flag number one for a lot of us, but it wasn't. Okay, the promissory note does not name a payee, and that's problematic because now this order note, it should be a order promissory note, and an order promissory note is paid to the order. Okay, it should say pay to the order of your mortgage company. There is no payee named. Okay, no payee has been named in many of these mortgages. If there is a payee named in your mortgage, that's great because that limits transferability. Okay, that limits how the note is to be transferred if a payee is named. But in many of these mortgage deeds, and for homework, go and read your mortgage deed. I know it's illegible, it's gibberish, you don't understand it. Okay, but that's okay. You're checking the promissory note to see if it actually names a payee, as I'm saying to you right now. And in most mortgage deeds, I'm not saying all, I have not seen all mortgage deeds, but in most mortgage deeds that I have seen, there is no named payee. When there is no named payee, the promissory note, that should be an order note for mortgages. Hear me clearly. It should be an order note. It should say, if you actually borrowed money from this entity, this promissory note should name them as the payee. In many of these promissory notes, there are no payees named. Okay? There are no payees named. Since there is no payee, the order note is now treated as a bearer promissory note. A bearer promissory note is a type of debt instrument. Remember, a person holding debt is a debtor. The debt instrument is payable to the person who physically holds the note. When you heard me say the word payable, what did you think the definition of payable was? And I'm going to pause for a second because I want you to think about that. This is an example of what I mean when I say that some of you guys think that you know a definition to a word and you don't. And if for some reason you make the mistake of interpreting a word or assigning a definition to a word, most people think that payable means it goes one way. It means that the person holding it is owed payment, and that is not the full definition. Payable refers to a sum of money that is owed or due to be paid by one party, the debtor, to another party, the creditor or payee, under terms of a financial obligation such as a promissory note, loan, or contract. That first part is important. Payable refers to a sum of money that is owed or due to be paid. Okay? Many of your deed of trust are illegible. They are gibberish. It does not make sense. You don't understand it. And that is the point. In reality, all of these mortgage deeds, you're really in an implied situation because the terms of these mortgages are unclear. The payee is unknown. Some of the terms in these mortgages it does not even make sense. Okay? And that's why I suggest that you read it, so that when you read it and at the end of reading it, you are confused. And that was the point of it. Okay? The point of it was to create this belief in your mind that, hey, you're the debtor. Okay? You're the debtor. And what happens is that shifts liability from the actual debtor to you. Many of the companies that you deal with, like in my case, Planet Home Lending. Planet Home Lending is a limited liability company, okay? Their job is to limit their liability, okay? These mortgages, these promissory notes are one-sided, meaning that they are only signed by us. Meaning that technically we're the only entity or only person that can enforce. And we wouldn't enforce against ourselves. And so what the servicer is saying is that, well, I mean, they wrote these terms and I'm just giving them the service that they asked me for. Okay? So really you're in more of an implied contract, meaning you think this in your mind. That's the only place it exists, is in your mind. So payable refers to a sum of money that is owed or due to be paid. The person holding the debt instrument is the debtor. Payable refers to a sum of money that is owed. The purpose of redemption is for you to collect. Okay? They may try to obfuscate, okay? They may try to muddle the situation to say, no, they have it all wrong. I'm the creditor. They are the debtor. That is not accurate. You're the one holding the debt. So you're the debtor. Think of it this way. Okay. If I if I'm the payee of a check, okay, let's say one of you guys makes a check payable to Christina M. Wilson. And the moment that I endorse the check over to someone else, let's say I don't want to cash it. You know what? I owed my sister this $100 I borrowed from her some time ago. So I'm just going to endorse the check over to her for $100. And, that way I pay her back that way. Okay. The moment I endorse the check over to my sister, she inherits all the rights, the liabilities. Okay, so if this check bounces, sis, you can't come back on me. Okay, because I transferred everything over to you. The same is true with a promissory note. So if the promissory note, which is technically a liability, is transferred by either handing it to another person or endorsing it to another person, they have just inherited all the rights, all the responsibility, all the obligation. So if the promissory note is on the face of it, okay, it says Christina M. Wilson promises to pay $150 to, and it doesn't name a payee, okay? The moment this promissory note is handed to another person, they have now inherited that promise. Does that make sense? They have inherited that promise to pay. Anyone who holds it, that's what it means. It is a liability. They have inherited all the rights. They have inherited the liabilities. They have inherited the obligations of this note. Okay? Think of payable as accounts payable. They are holding the accounts payable. Remember, this is accounting but in paper form. I was born in the 80s, so I was born around the time where like digital banking was starting to become a thing. Our parents and our grandparents grew up in a time where they had to do a lot of manual accounting, okay? But not so much for like millennials like me, okay? We kind of grew up in the digital banking age, checks, cards, things of that nature. So the person holding the mortgage deed is holding the accounts payable. It represents short-term liabilities recorded on a company's balance sheet for amounts owed to suppliers or vendors for goods or services received but not yet paid for, usually due within 30 to 90 days. Okay? So the person or entity or trust holding your bearer note is holding the accounts payable. It's just in paper form. They are the debtor. They're holding debt. They're holding a liability. Okay? So remember when I talked to you earlier, I kind of jumped the gun about order notes. The type of note that should secure your mortgage is an order note. Your mortgage should say, I, Jane M. Doe or John H. Doe, promises to pay ABC Company X amount of dollars. Okay, it should name a payee. Your mortgage deed with the promissory note attached in most cases does not name a payee. Okay? Payable to the order of someone, payable to the order of this company, this bank, this entity. Okay? If there was a named payee, The reason why it needs to be an order note is to keep a chain of title intact. Okay? You want to know everybody who has held this promissory note or who has used it, because in reality they owe you money. And an order note, in order for it to be transferred, it has to be endorsed and delivered on an order note. But they trick us and they withhold a payee from the note, making it a bearer note. Okay? So let's talk about it one more time. A bearer note, a promissory note payable to whoever holds it. Remember what we said the word payable means. It is an amount owed or due to be paid, depending on what you believe in your mind. Okay? You're either one or the other. I hope you're on the side that says that the person holding it is responsible for the amount owed, meaning they have to pay, and not the other definition where you have to pay, where the role has been switched, the liability has been shifted to you. Okay? A promissory note payable to whoever holds it, transferred by physical delivery alone. Okay? Listen to that. Transferred by physical delivery, meaning with a bearer note, they do not have to endorse it. And you guys think about this. Many of you have no idea who's holding your mortgage. So if that's the case, I know that the mortgage company, if you contact the mortgage company and say, hey, can you guys tell me if this promissory note is an order note or if it's a bearer note? I know that they may say that, oh, it's an order note, okay? But you have to look at how they are treating it. It's not what they say. They are liars. You have to look at how is it being treated. Okay? Similar to like somebody saying that they love you and then they beat you up later on that night. Which do you believe? You believe that they love you, or do you believe that the action of you getting beat up later on that night that might suggest to you, I don't think this person loves me as much as they say, because they beat me up at night. Okay? It's not what they tell you, it's how they use it. Okay, so bearer notes are transferred by physical delivery alone. Listen to me again. Transferred by physical delivery alone. Okay, meaning we have no idea who's touching it. We have no idea who's holding it. And the purpose of this is so it's harder for you to find who's holding it, who has it. And they pass it off a bunch of times. And it doesn't have to be endorsed. And there is no chain of title. It should be an order note. Okay? It's enforceable by possession. So if they possess it, they're the debtor. And you have to enforce. Okay? Order note, a promissory note payable to a specific payee. Okay? So the dangers. Okay? Read here where it says higher fraud risk. Higher fraud risk due to being anonymous. I have a hard time saying this word, so I'm just going to say due to being anonymous. Okay? You, with a bearer note, Al Qaeda could have your promissory note and you could be funding terrorism without you even knowing. Okay? So this is why promissory notes that secure mortgages, I'm not going to say required because I couldn't find a law or statute that said that it was a requirement, but it is highly suggested due to the nature of the mortgage and the chain of title. Bearer note circumvents that chain of title, okay, making it easy for them to pass your note and therefore your payments off to anyone. Okay, like I gave you an example, they could have endorsed your bearer note over to Al Qaeda, and now you're funding terrorism, and you don't even know it. Not the same for order note. Okay, it's excuse me, guys. It's transferred by endorsement, meaning someone has to sign it, and that creates a chain of title, so you can see everybody who has used it because they owe you money. Everybody that endorsed, they owe you money. Everybody. Order notes have lower fraud risk due to tracked ownership, enforceable by named payee or the endorsee. Okay? The key difference between the two: bearer notes rely on possession, order notes require endorsement and naming a payee. I don't care what they told you it is. It's how are they using it. And as I stated, many of you have no idea who is holding your mortgage deed. That's why some of you guys are having to send RESPA letters and they're not being transparent with you. These are indicators that this mortgage you think you're in is bogus. Taking a order note that should have a named payee and sneaking it past me to really make it a bearer note because it doesn't name a payee, and bearer notes are more susceptible to fraud risk. These are indicators, okay? These are indicators that we're not supposed to be in these mortgages. They are bogus. Okay, so remember the game Hot Potato. Okay, the hot potato game is simple. It was a fun group activity often played by children. Players sit or stand in a circle and pass an object, the hot potato, like a ball or a beanbag, to each other as quickly as possible while music plays. When the music stops, the player holding the object is out or faces a consequence. The game continues until one player remains or everyone has had a turn. It's a fast paced game that encourages quick reactions. Think of your bearer note, it is a liability. Think of your bearer note as a hot potato. Okay? And these mortgage servicers are tossing it off to anybody at any time, and they don't have to endorse it because it's a bearer note. So they could just hand it to somebody. Another thing that you may not have realized, and this is something I want in the course, I will add to the course in teaching you what cash value is. Many of these bearer notes are sold. So let's say you have a mortgage for $200,000, okay? And your mortgage servicer, you believe that you have an order note, which in reality is a bearer note. And your servicer, okay, has you trapped in the belief that you're a slave. Remember one of my last videos where I told you that they take investors. You're in reality, you're an investor, okay? And they take you and they brainwash you, okay? Your name is no longer investor, your name is borrower. Okay, and they get you to believe this. You have to believe it or it doesn't work. Do you guys remember there was a good movie I loved? I used to watch it repeatedly during deployment. I had an iPod. Man, I'm old. Y'all remember iPods? Okay, and it was called The Skeleton Key. I don't know if you guys remember. But the Skeleton Key it was a movie, just briefly. It was a movie about these slaves that figured out how to transfer their soul into the bodies of younger people so that you can steal the time from them that they have left. So they trade bodies. Okay, so let's say like the slave got old and they were facing death, so they would find some young man or woman. Okay, the slaves were husband and wife, so they would go out and they would find some man or woman, okay, that they can manipulate, and they would bring them into their house, and they set the home up in a way that teaches the victim about hoodoo. Okay, because in order to swap or do the body trade, the victim had to believe that this was real. They had to believe in hoodoo or it doesn't work. Okay, and that was one of the highlights of the movies. If y'all want to watch a good movie, it's called The Skeleton Key. It is really good, and this is something similar that's going on. They have to get you to believe that this is the case, or else this does not work. If you don't believe, you have to believe it. Okay, your bearer note has cash value. Okay, to get back on track to where I was going, your bearer note has cash value, meaning that it was sold. This is why some individuals say, hey, I want the purchase order. When they ask for the purchase order, they really don't know what they're asking for. This is something that they heard from someone else, but they really don't know what they're looking for when they ask for the purchase order. If you get a purchase order, you have proof that this note has cash value. So when did it have cash value? When did it gain the value? It gained the value when you issued it. So if you issued a promissory note, let's say it had cash value of 200,000. Your mortgage servicer or bank sold it to another investor for $180,000. Okay, that $20,000 should have been reported as OID income. That's an example of OID. Okay, and that 20,000 would have been payable to you because you were the issuer. It had cash value the moment you issued it. Everybody knows it has cash value except you. And now you're paying interest on your own money. And you don't know it because you've been told that you're a borrower. Okay, and they play underhanded tactics with you. They threaten you. They leave notices on your door. They record lies on the public record. They abuse the court system to force you into accepting because it doesn't work if you don't believe it. So your promissory note had cash value from inception, from the moment you issued it. Did they tell you that they were going to take your promissory note cash value and then lend it back to you at interest? I bet you can't find those terms anywhere in your mortgage deed. I bet nowhere did you give consent for this to happen. Okay? So that is the downside. The downside to bearer notes is that we can't track everybody who's touched it. It's bad for you because now you can't collect your money. Okay? Purchase orders, when people ask for purchase orders, what you're trying to prove is that, listen, if your mortgage servicer was able to sell your promissory note to someone else, that it means that it is worth this amount of money. It does not matter. Let me try to explain it a little bit further, because some of you guys, you read the writings on the note and you say, but it says I'm a debtor, it says I'm a borrower, it says this and it says that. Okay, if I gave you $100 bill, and before I gave it to you, I wrote on the $100 bill, you will die within 3 days of cashing this $100 or using this $100. Would you care? It don't matter what's written on it. What matters is that I'm holding $100. You get it? So whoever wrote, "Hey, you'll die within 3 days of cashing this hundred," they don't want you to cash the $100 bill. But that does not change the nature that you're still holding $100 bill. The writings on it doesn't matter. What matters is its nature. What is it? All right. Now here's the risks, okay? These are the risks I want you to understand. The bearer note is a liability, and it is a liability to whoever holds it. We're going to call it a hot potato, okay? And these debtors out here are tossing the hot potato because they don't want to be the ones stuck holding it when the regulator pull up. You're the regulator. You're the only regulator. Okay? They do not want to be stuck holding it when you figure it out because they don't know yet that they paying me interest on their own money. The promise don't matter. The promise is irrelevant to what that amount is on the face of it. If they have been selling this instrument and trading it amongst each other, it has value. And it had value the day that you issued it. Purchase orders, all it is evidence that this thing has value. So why am I paying interest on something that I issued? You guys have to understand, okay? You cannot just parrot this stuff. You have to believe it. It doesn't work if you don't believe it. You see how they have you paying interest on your own because you believe it. You believe that this is the way that it goes. And I understand it takes time to undo those beliefs and those fears. I get that. You have to believe this. It don't work if you don't believe it. Okay? In terms of redemption, the risk to you is that this bearer note can be handed off at any time. If the trust, who is the debtor, a person holding debt is a debtor, you will accept no other explanation. I don't care who tries to change your mind, tell you that this is the wrong definition, you got the wrong interpretation. All of those are scammers. These are the people trying to get over on you by making you believe that you're the borrower. They need you to continue to believe this so they can have a steady stream of income. They can get money for nothing. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't try to keep these circumstances in play? Okay? If the trust tosses the hot potato, which is your bearer note, before the treasury can redeem it, the borrower, okay, I should have put that in quote, must now locate the new CUSIP, the name of the trust or entity holding the mortgage, and resubmit a new redemption request to the Treasury. This is a feature of your promissory note. If you do a securitization audit and you find out, you say, "Hey, Christine, I got an audit. Jenny Mae got my mortgage like yours." And I say, "Okay, good. Grab the book as soon as it's available. Go through the course, do your redemption, and get it into the Treasury as quickly as possible." And the Treasury comes back and they say that, "Hey, yeah, your mortgage deed is not active in this trust. It got transferred." Unfortunately, that's something that's beyond my control. It is a feature of the bearer note. They can hand this off at any time like a hot potato. And so if they do this, this means that now somebody else is holding it. You now have to either send a RESPA letter to your lying, dishonest mortgage servicer asking them who has it. And they may or may not tell you. If they do not, now you have to dig in your pocket and pay for another securitization audit. That is something that's beyond my control. Okay? Those were one of the risks that I was trying to communicate to you guys, and it came off wrong. And I was reading the comments and I'm like, no, this is not what I meant. This is not what I meant at all. When I said that there are risks, I'm saying to you that this is beyond my control if they do this. If they toss or transfer or sell your mortgage deed with the promissory note before you can redeem it, it complicates redemption. That's something that's beyond my control. I wish I could control that. I can't. It's a feature of these bearer notes. Okay? Y'all see, I got Jigsaw up here because it's a game. Okay, because bearer notes are payable to whoever physically holds them. And remember, read over what payable means repeatedly until it seeps in your mind. The definition of payable is an amount owed or due to be paid. The definition is based on what you think and believe about the transaction. If you think you owe, reach in your pocket and pay. But the money is owed to you, and the person holding it owes it to you. And you do not revert. You can't be wishy-washy. This was, if you guys listen to Patrick, he says that a lot. You can't be wishy-washy doing this. You either believe it or you don't. If you believe that you're owed the money, you do not change that justification under any circumstances. Okay? All right, because the bearer notes are payable to whoever physically holds them, the U.S. Treasury has limited ability to verify rightful ownership if the note has been altered, tampered with, or forged. What made me investigate this? Contacting the Treasury, asking them for information. Give me what in your regulation, where can I go to read about these different, I call them risks. These mortgage servicers, these investors, quote unquote, these entities holding your mortgage are debtors. They absolutely will alter or tamper or forge either the mortgage deed itself or the promissory note. There are multiple court cases where this has happened, where they have found mortgage deeds, promissory notes to be tampered with. If the Treasury arrives at the trust to redeem, and when they look at the promissory note, it looks altered, tampered with, it looks forged, this is a crime. The Treasury is now looking at a crime, and you need to understand that. If they deny your redemption based on this, this was a blessing sent from heaven. And I hope you realize it. I had a person that did their own redemption request. They did their own mortgage, so they did not take my advice. They did not like pay for my preparation service, and you guys know I have not released the book yet. Okay, so they went and they had done their own redemption request. The treasury came back and told them that the mortgage deed was defective, and the person didn't know what that meant. And I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh my God. The person was just complaining to me about how the system is unfair and blase, blase, blase. I mean, they wrote me like a life story, okay? And I couldn't even read what they were saying because I'm like, they don't even understand this letter that they got from the treasury. They have no clue what this letter says. It says that when they went to redeem the securities were defective. They're telling you that this shit is counterfeit. Defective, it's no good. So if this is no good that the trust is holding, what is that recorded on the county record? And he didn't even realize it, that he was holding the answer to all his problems. I told him to go back and dig more. What do they mean by defective? And usually when they say defective, they're saying it's been altered or tampered with. Why redemption may be denied. No registered owner. Bearer notes are unregistered, so there is no official record of ownership. This is a risk with these bearer notes. This is a risk that I can't control. That they may tamper with this type of information. Forgery or alterations. When they told them it was defective, that's what they were saying. If the note appears suspicious, missing serial numbers, altered text, or counterfeit features, the Treasury may refuse redemption. Security risk. The Treasury must ensure that redeemed notes are genuine and legally held. If they can't verify this, they won't honor the instrument. Bearer securities must be presented in original unaltered form for redemption. If the Treasury comes back to you and they say that these securities were defective, you now have evidence. They're saying that these securities were forged or altered, and you want to press them on what do they mean by defective? And will they launch an investigation because they may be looking at a crime? Especially if it's in a government sponsored trust. Even private trusts are still regulated by federal law. So if they deny redemption, this is something that is beyond my control. I cannot control that they alter or tamper with your mortgage deed. But this is a godsend if they did. Because you now have evidence from the Treasury that this mortgage deed is void ab initio. It was void from inception. They have altered it. They have defaced it. They have tampered with it. They have forged it. You have a clear path. And you might have to file, I'm not going to say might, it's likely you will need to file a lawsuit to get them to clear that mortgage deed off the record. It's no good. And you do not enter into another mortgage. Okay, another thing that I need you to understand, and this was an issue with the borrow from yourself. And the reason that I use the Terminator, in many of these government agencies, you are not talking to a person, you are talking to a machine. Okay? There was this sheriff, okay, and I heard this, I was listening to the testimony of in one of Patrick's classes. One of his students came forward and said, hey, the sheriff just got arrested here because it was found out that the sheriff, okay, who was in charge of car impounds, was doing underhanded things like placing holds on people's vehicles, okay, placing investigative holds. Okay, this is the sheriff, and the sheriff was over the impound. And so the sheriff would place these holds on people's vehicles, and you guys know that the longer they hold a vehicle, the more money they can earn in fees. So it came out that somebody dug a little bit into this sheriff and found out that he was an investor to the car impound that was doing this. Okay? IRS agents are an example of bureaucracy. Okay, these algorithms within government agencies. Okay, you're not really talking to a person. I had someone contact me not too long ago, and they were threatened with jail time for the borrow from yourself. They were threatened. We're going to file. The CID of the IRS is not here for you. Can you imagine if you owned a business? Think about this, okay? Even if you're just a shareholder, okay? The shareholders are the owners of a business. You own a business, okay? You fund this business. So all the money that this business generates, that they get it from you, the shareholders, okay? And the employees within the company take your money and then weaponize departments that you set up to watch them against you. Can you see the problem with that? Do you understand now when I say that they're playing games and you guys have to know how to defend yourselves when they do this? And so the person that they did this with, they were threatening, oh, we're going to put a case on you, we're going to do this. He stood his ground against them. They retracted that. They retracted that threat. So let me get this right. So I pay for y'all to weaponize departments that we put the CID within the IRS to watch the IRS agents, to watch the people within government. Because the government is both like the post office. You see how the post office can make money? They're both. They're both a government and a corporation. So when you have establishments like this, you need to have some type of enforcement. Because if not, the employees will start stealing. And so they used the CID against him. And when he stood his ground against them, they called it all off. It was all a bluff. These are things that's beyond my control. The people within the treasury, these bureaucracies like the sheriff example I gave you, who do you think are the investors to your mortgages? So when you send in a redemption, and even if you get an unfavorable response, you want to know who made that decision. You want to be sure this is not a computer. I need a name. I need an agent number. I want to know everyone who touched this redemption packet, because you're likely dealing with a bureaucracy, just like with the borrow from yourself. I said, no, this is not. This is a bureaucracy. This is somebody within the IRS that is deciding this. This is an algorithm. And so the employees or the higher ups within a government agency can start to reject, oh no, we don't process these. Oh, these are fringe theories that's circulating out This is a lie. And you have to probe, you have to press. Who decided this? What is their name? Because there is a federal law called FACTA, and that's a tort claim against a federal employee overstepping their boundaries. Now you could take stuff from them. This federal employee, this bureaucrat that is manipulating the system within the government. And that's something I wanted you guys to understand. A bureaucracy is a system or organization where decisions and administrative tasks are carried out by non-elected officials following formal rules and procedures. Okay, an example, like I said, IRS agents, Treasury agents, people high up within the Treasury, people high up within the DOJ, within the CID, within the CIA, manipulating things. Just like with borrow from yourself, a total manipulation. People that stood their ground, unfortunately, they had to even go through this process of being threatened, of having, you want to know everybody that touched your account. I'll need names. I want to know who decided this. On what basis was this decision made? Because you might have to make an example out of an employee. These employees within places like this is the swamp. If y'all want to know what it is, these people within higher ups, within the IRS and within the Treasury, are also investors to your mortgages. Just like the sheriff example that I gave you. I have not had this happen in a redemption other than the gentleman that came to me and said that he did redemption on his own, and he didn't understand the letter that he got back from the Treasury saying that the security was defective, that they couldn't redeem it. And he didn't know what he was holding with that letter. I'll sleep better at night knowing that I was as transparent with you guys as possible, that I tried the simplest way to explain it to you guys, okay? I'll sleep better at night, giving you as much context, giving you as much information. Y'all, it's so much information. I think I've decided to make something similar to a school where you guys could take courses, okay? Courses and quizzes to help teach certain concepts to you. So for like title acquisition, I'm going to make a course for title acquisition. For borrow from yourself. You know how the Treasury comes back and say, "Oh, this is a frivolous, you're frivolous or you're committing fraud." But fraud carries the intent of you're trying to hide something. You understand? So if I tried to hide something, I would have used someone else's name. I would have used someone else's social security number. I would have used someone else's home address. Okay? But I did none of those things. So do not threaten me with fraud because I have not hidden anything. That's what fraud is. Another thing that you guys don't know that I'm going to throw this at you briefly, but it's one of the things that you have to know. Did you guys know that checks, and I want you to verify this for me, and let's talk about it down in the comments, okay? Did you guys know that checks, promissory notes, bills of exchange, drafts, debit cards, credit cards, did you guys know that those are all considered non-legal tender? Did y'all know that? bills of exchange, promissory notes, um, drafts, are all considered credit cards, debit cards. They are all considered non-legal forms of payment. They are considered non-legal tender. They are not legal tender. It's not. And you guys can go look this up and fact check me on it. And when I found this out, you know how some individuals were paying their mortgages with drafts or checks that they were making from their own private bank? The reason is because if the house was purchased, let's say, for example, and I don't want to get off track, but I know y'all are probably like locked in now. You want to hear a little bit more. But let's say when you purchased your house, if the mortgage lender wired the funds to the seller of the home, that wire is considered a non-legal tender of payment. It's non-legal. It is non-legal tender. Y'all, look, fact check me on it. So some individuals, when they were sending bills of exchange to pay off their mortgage, technically they were right in doing that because equal protection under the law. Okay, so if you pay for my house in non-legal tender and then I pay you back in non-legal tender, we're even. But people didn't know how to explain it in that way. The only legal tender is coin or Federal Reserve notes, cash. Okay? On your promissory notes, okay? I know they say it has US, okay, and then it has a dollar amount, whatever the amount of your mortgage is. But it does not specify cash only. Did y'all know that? Go look at your promissory note. So your promissory, let's say if your house was $100,000. On your promissory note, it says US $100,000. But your mortgage, that bearer note, promissory note, non-legal tender, that non-legal tender did not specify in what way was this US money to be paid. Is it supposed to be cash only, wire, card, check, which are all non-legal forms of payment, non-legal tender? They never specify. Meaning, since they never specified that, hey, this $100,000 is to be paid back in cash only, which is legal tender. They never specify. Even when you ask for a payoff, they say, hey, we accept wire, we accept cash, they have now told you that we accept non-legal tender. So if you guys want a faster way to settle and close, I've been thinking about whether or not, that's why I'm kind of like sitting on it, y'all. I'm sitting on it because I'm thinking in my mind if there's more I want to add. If you guys want to do your bills of exchange, okay, you might have to enforce. Okay, you have no rights if you can't enforce. You need to understand that. That's what they have over us. That they have a means of enforcement, how they use the courts to manipulate us, how they use, okay, the sheriff, they use these different enforcement entities that really should be neutral. They use them to intimidate us. So they have a means of enforcement. You absolutely can settle your mortgage using a bill of exchange, using a draft, which is non-legal tender. But first, you want to verify, hey, mortgage servicer, how did you pay the seller of the home for me? And they say, oh, we paid by wire. You now have confirmation that they have paid using non-legal tender. So now that you have, this is precedent, you have started using non-legal tender, I can pay you back in non-legal tender. Okay? So I just wanted to share that with you guys. And when I found that out, my mind was blown. It really added a lot of context to a lot of things for me. When I found, and I read a lot, y'all. I read, like, I suffer from migraines, and I think that's I think that's why, because I read until like my eyes roll in the back of my head, and I can't go anymore. But yes, credit cards, checks, personal checks, promissory notes, bills of exchange, drafts are all considered non-legal tender. Okay? And so I was talking to, you guys know I have a good friend of mine who is a former attorney that I trust. And so I was saying that, okay, well, can we add an element to settlement and closure where they make their um, bill of exchange to settle the mortgage? Another thing that you guys don't know, that when a number is in parentheses, that represents a negative value. You see how it's so many nuances, it's so many things, okay, that if you don't know, you'll make the mistake of thinking that someone, that Christina got over on me, when in reality, you just don't have the information that you need to kind of understand what's going on. And so what happens is, when things do not go your way and you don't have enough knowledge to press the issue, you think that I got over, I got misled. Okay, she tricked me, she took my money, okay, and I got nothing out of it. And that's not the case. And so that's why I said that, like, all these, how I just introduced you to the if the value is in parentheses in accounting, that automatically makes the number, the value on the inside, negative. And remember, I've said that credit is negative. Okay, you're the creditor, so credit is negative. So if you issue your bill of exchange and you just have that face value amount, you need to have it in parentheses. Okay, little nuances like that. And if you read, I know these bearer notes are not in accordance with the Uniform Commercial Code, so don't even use it to try. Your bearer promissory note does not meet um any of the requirements under the UCC. So many people who thinks that the UCC governs their bearer promissory note are mistaken. It doesn't. It's really nothing out here governing this. The only thing standing between total anarchy is you. You're the only regulator out here. Okay? But the UCC does tell you, like, hey, well, if you issue a bill of exchange, all it has to have is a face value, a date on it, the terms, and a signature, and it's considered valid. And that's all you have to do. Now, if they don't accept it, you've already gotten evidence. Well, listen, you wired this payment. And it's just numbers on the screen. This is not real money. And it made sense to me when I read it, like, that's not real money. Numbers on the screen. It's not. Anybody that controls the computer can enter numbers and put numbers on the screen. So this is not real money. It's not. And another definition, I want you guys to dig into this non-legal tender now that I put it on your mind. Another with the non-legal tender is that it is not to be treated as currency. It is not to be treated as currency or money. But how are they treating your promissory note? Think about it. They're treating it as currency. Okay, so even in the redemption process, when you're asking the treasury to redeem it, it's nothing off the treasury's back. You're asking them to wire it to you, so they're sending you payment in non-legal tender. When they send you a treasury check, guess what that treasury check is considered? Non-legal tender. It's not real money. So they're out here threatening people. threatening people as if you're stealing or taking something from them. When all of this is just numbers on the screen, it's non legal tender. Okay. I have a snippet from Patrick. I think I'm going to make that a reel. I'm not going to add it. I think this video has been long enough, but I wanted to talk to you guys and kind of tell you what I'm doing. I'm sorry. I know some of y'all are in emergencies, and that's unfortunate, okay? But I can't rush this. I want to be sure that I give you as much information as I could possibly give you. Once you guys buy this ebook and you have the course as well, okay? It's almost impossible for me when people come back and like, oh, I have a question about this, a question about that, a question about this, and there are a lot of people whose questions have gone unanswered because I'm limited. I'm just one person. And then even my admins, like the help that I have, they are limited in the knowledge that they have. So it all falls on me. In other words, what I'm saying is once you have the book and you have the course, there is no one to talk to at that point. And I want to make that very clear, like in the description, so that you can make an informed decision. I would rather not make a sale because a person decides, you know what, I just don't like those terms. I should be able to talk to somebody, and I respect that. I respect that decision. But I'd rather present you with all the information, all the options, and let you make an informed decision. I would rather not make a sale than to have to deal with, like the headache later of people feeling like, well, I feel like you should have a consult with me, but that's not what came along with the book did not say if you purchase this book, you also get a consultation with Christina and you get to email me unlimited questions. That was not a part of the agreement. What came with the product is the book, and the course is what I'm now building. If you guys want me to release the book and just come with the course when it's available, let me know in the comments what you think about that. I didn't want to do it that way. I want to release the course with the book, okay, so that you have it at the same time. And like I said, I'm going back and I'm doing courses for all the books so that you guys can have a solid understanding of like what's happening with your title. Okay, what is happening with your mortgage? What do these words mean? If this happens to me, what recourse do I have? How can I respond? How can I reply back? Okay, how do I fight back against this? Okay, and so I want to have those courses with the book. So, because I felt like with many of you guys, y'all were just like lost. Even with the setting up the estate, private banking, foreign granted trust. Some people were getting letters back from the Treasury, not the Treasury, the IRS, sorry. And the IRS was asking, like, in order for them to set up an estate, they were like, well, you have to send us your letters testamentary, okay? Or you got to send us a will of a dead person. And it's like, no, by your definition, an estate, okay, by definition, an estate is it could be a corporation, it could be a trust, it could be uh not the estate, a person. Okay, sorry, I got the terms. I'm reading estate and then I thought about it. But by the IRS's definition, a person is a trust, an estate, a corporation, what else? It could be an individual. Okay, so they have several definitions to identify a person. Okay, and so when they're asking you, they're making the mistake of thinking that, oh, you're reporting the death of a natural person. No, I'm not. Okay, I'm not reporting the death of a natural person. And so some people had got stuck. They didn't know, like they got scared. They thought that they had been given bad information when that's not the case. They didn't know what person meant. And so when I understood, like, I think I need to give these people a little bit more. And so that's where the courses, I'm going to add courses with a book. And then I'm also talking to developers, and I want to add a section to the website where there are different courses teaching you how to make your bills of exchange, what is your mortgage, how it functions, okay, how redemption works, if things do not go your way with redemption, okay, how to view these results, especially if they tell you your we couldn't complete redemption because it was altered, your it was or forged, the securities were altered or forged, okay, that's a godsend for you, okay, because they just now handed you evidence that this what you've always believed, what you thought from the beginning, you now have evidence of. Is not necessarily what you believe, is what you can prove. And you have the treasury saying that these are counterfeit securities, and they are counterfeit now that you know that they are non-legal tender. And when you look up the definition of non-legal tender, that non-legal tender is not to be treated as cash. But how do they use it? They treat it as cash. Okay, non-legal tender is not to be used as like a substitute for legal tender. But how is it being, and even we're guilty of it as well. And that's something you kind of gotta realize too, because we didn't know. Okay, so non-legal tender cannot be used as as cash. Non-legal tender is simply used to settle a transaction. That's it. To settle or transfer credits or fund. They call it funds. And you might get confused to think that it's they're talking about money, and they're not. But I want you guys to do some homework and um dig into legal tender and non-legal tender so your mind can be blown and you can see what I see now. Okay? Um You guys know my website is kwestate.gumroad.com and kwestate.org. Okay, those are my official websites. Beware of scammers, y'all. It's a channel on TikTok. I think they've gotten up to like 17,000 followers. That's not me. You can find me. I'm the real individual banker on TikTok. I'm not big, really active on TikTok, but I do try to post here and there. I'm not much active anywhere anymore. But yeah, I try to be active on TikTok. I'm going to resume Zoom meetings. And I want to meet with you guys on the 1st and 15th. Y'all know I was in the military, so those were paydays for us. And I want to meet on the 1st and 15th. I'm working on a multitude of projects, y'all. Um, I don't want to tell all my business, but I got a nice little back payout from the VA, and like I now understand VA regulations and how to get if some of you guys are like struggling with your what is it, guys? It's late and I'm getting sleepy. With your claims, okay, for your VA disability benefits, and you need help, like I got these conditions in my record, but the VA is not paying me for it, okay? And I got evidence, and I'll share. Like, I'm gonna create another ebook and a course. So the website, on the website that has the section for courses, I'm gonna have all that: titles, how to create your bills of exchange, how to do your mortgage redemptions, okay? How to clean up your credit. That's another big one. I haven't even had the time to like scratch the surface on that yet. I've just been juggling so many different things. What else? Yeah, how to do if you're a veteran, something for my veterans. And for my veterans, I'm probably going to offer it for free to my veterans. Yeah, so how to do your disability claim. And if you win your claim, just come back and leave me a donation. Okay? Um, that's all I got for y'all. I just wanted to go over bare notes. I want to tell y'all what the risks are These risks are beyond my control. Okay, these bureaucrats, the nature of bearer notes, the fact that these people alter information, they forge it or they tamper with information, and it makes it difficult to know who owns it. You know what I mean? So like if they're looking, if the trust is like, but we're the creditor, and you're standing here like, but we're the creditor, what does the treasury do? And I kind of understand that. And when I had that conversation with them, I'm like, you know what? I kind of get that. I do get that. This is really a dispute that the Treasury can't settle. You got to go to court. Okay. So, as always, it's good talking to you guys. Bye.